I recently did a sign where the flat area did not come out looking very nice. The board warped as I cut it, and the machine it's not the best machine, so the depth varies as I cut, leading to all of these undesirable lines and artifacts. One way to resolve that is to fill in the flat area with a pattern. And one of the ways that you can do a pattern is what I'm going to show you in this video. And so we're going to replicate this type of pattern here that's diamonds in the flat background of a sign. All right, here I've got a blank file that I'm starting with. Just going to put some real simple things in here. Let's make it a little bit smaller, 1.25, and so this is going to be minus 0.625. There we go. Now we go to our toolpaths, and normally when you VCarve something, you're going to select what you want to VCarve, and it'll do everything. Let's see, we're going to go with this one, calculate. And so what it does is it cuts, in the base format, it cuts as deep as it needs to achieve that shape. But you can select a flat depth here. I'm going to go 200 thousandths, and then what it does is it carves out the flat area with the tiny little V-bit tip. So if we go into preview this, you see it's going to do each one of these little lines, and it just takes forever. So we're going to try to do something that's a little bit faster and a little bit more decorative than trying to do these flat areas like this. Back to our 2D view, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to offset all of these inwards by 0.2 inches, which is the same as our VCarve flat depth, and not create sharp offset corners. All right, that looks pretty good. Now that new selection is going to be what we want to not carve with our flat depth. So if we go into our VCarve here, we're going to use a clearance tool. Normally you would do like a 1/8 inch flat end mill, calculate. And so that would require a bit change, and it wouldn't take quite as much time, but it would also lead to some artifacts, and the flat bottom wouldn't look as sharp as it could. You don't see them here, but a flat bottom usually with the CNC router leads to artifacts. One way to trick it into not doing any of the flat carve with this clearance tool is to select the V-bit as the clearance tool. So that looks almost identical to what it did before, but here's the trick. Just don't do that. So now I have deselected this clearing path, leaving everything that we want to carve with our new vector texture. Back in our 2D view here, we want to select everything that will be textured, which in this is conveniently only those few selections. When you do an offset, you can have it select the new offset, so you don't have to go through and manually select everything. And then when you're done with this, you immediately go to your vector texture, and now everything is already selected that you're going to be texturing. These are the settings that I have for the diamond pattern that I've been using. You can of course change the background that you get with all of these settings here. You can change the spacing to be really wide or narrow and just achieve different effects here. But I'm going to do 0.1 inches is a good spacing that I like, with 0 variation, 0 amplitude. Wavelength doesn't matter if there's no amplitude, and 0 noise. As well as changing the angle to, whoops. To edit these, you do have to select that, go back to your create vector texture, and if you just hit preview again, it deselects your area, but you will have to go in and reselect your area to get the correct selection. And now this will fill in just the area. And that looks good. Okay, now I'm going to do another vector texture. This one's going to be minus 60 degrees. And there's our diamond pattern. Now I'm going to go and hold the shift key to select multiple things in VCarve. It's not the control key. Now you go to your profile toolpath, and this depth here. This is a 90-degree cutter, so that's effectively a 45-degree wall. If we're going down 0.2 inches and over 0.2 inches, we don't want to actually go the full depth. We will have some collision artifacts along the edge because no machine is perfect. So our depth is actually going to be, I choose 10 thousandths less. So that's our cut depth for our VCarve for the diamonds. Now our V-bit, we're going to select the same V-bit that we did the perimeter. One thing to mention while I'm still on the tool bit is we've already cut the perimeter, so there is no material that it's plunging into. To speed up the carving time, we'll actually set this at a much higher plunge rate because it's plunging into air, and that just speeds everything up. We don't need a ramp or leads. Order, I like to do whatever the shortest path is just to speed it up. It doesn't really matter. You could do left to right if you want to watch it, but shortest path is fastest. You can hit optimize start points. Corners, doesn't matter. Calculate. And there we go. There is our diamond pattern. Let's reset preview visible toolpaths, which is only going to be these two. That took quite a lot of time in my computer, so for video, very high is nice. You get extra quality that you guys can see, but standard will just speed this up a lot more. Reset preview visible, and then it just rams right through them. Actually, on the video, it looks pretty similar, so we can just keep going with that. I turned up the simulation quality just to show zoomed in that it doesn't actually go all the way to the edge. That's because we set our profile depth to only be 0.19 inches here. You do want to be grain aware when doing this. If the grain is in a vertical direction, you probably want to have your diamonds in a vertical orientation. If your grain is horizontal, maybe use different horizontal diamonds or square diamonds, or you could do just perfectly straight horizontal lines. That could look good as well. But I often get a lot of fuzzies in here. So what I'll actually do is duplicate this and I'll just run it a second time, just as a cleanup pass, and that removes most of the fuzzies that I have left. Now, just for this demonstration, I'm going to do a perimeter. We're going to give it a 1/4 inch offset. We're going to select a end mill 1/4 inch, add tabs, edit tabs. We're going to do tab there and there and there and there. Close. Add ramps. We're going to add leads to. Start at the bottom. Leads. Good. Calculate. My depth here is going to be 0.825 inches. Edit passes. We're going to go up to 4 passes. I'm doing it in black walnut, which is pretty hard. All right, preview visible toolpaths. Doing a really nice waffle bottom there. Doing the perimeter cutout. All right, excellent. Now this last profile cut that I did here, you'll notice it goes all the way around without any tabs. This profile, I do have tabs in there. You can see right there I have a tab. The last cut, and you have to be really careful when doing this because you don't want to, cut a finger off or run your finger into the router bit, is when it does this final pass, I actually have to press on it with my hand so that it doesn't move. And I was realizing, I'm filming this a little bit after I already cut it out, and I realized that the start and end point for this, you can see that the last profile cut is right over here, and ideally you would want your last few tabs to be right in along here as it's coming in to finish that cut, so you're not having to rely on your hand pressing it down with no other tabs remaining for it to finish this last cut. Another option is when you're doing the first profile cut is to not use any tabs. Just go down to within 50 thousandths of cutting through, and then this last profile cut, you can do your last 50 thousandths, and that'll keep it mostly secure in one spot. You will have to hold the workpiece down as it cuts just that last little bit on the edge. The key when running this through your post processor is just don't post this clearance toolpath. So visible toolpaths, that'll be these 3 that are checked. So that's VCarve 90, save that. And then all I want to do is this final last profile toolpath with a 1/4 inch bit, profile 0,250. All right, that's our toolpaths done. Let's go hit it on the CNC. And here's what it looks like on my CNC computer. This is Linux CNC. This is a eBay router that I've mounted on a Probotics Comet. This is a Amana 90-degree insert bit. It has a replaceable insert there. So if I ever chip it or get it dull, I can just flip it around or replace it, and they're only a few bucks each. Everything's set and ready to go. Let's turn this on. Crank it up to full speed and hit run. And here it is all finished. You can see that around the edges here, it's about 10 thousandths higher, which is what I had it set at. You could actually tune this in to be a little bit less if you wanted to. Maybe 3 thousandths. You can see it around the perimeter here too. As long as you're not close, you don't see it. You know, if you back up far enough away, you don't notice any of it. Unfortunately, I had the R here blow out. This is some low quality walnut here that I got from a sawmill scrap pile a few years ago. And because of the grain orientation on this, you know, this is horizontal, and I made the diamonds vertical, I risk having chip out and tear out like on this R here, and I did get a little bit of that right here. So you have to be careful about that. If the diamonds were placed horizontal, maybe that wouldn't happen. Maybe if you did a roughing pass that was 90% of the depth, maybe that wouldn't happen. Or maybe if you had a stiffer router than I have, that wouldn't happen. So overall, it's an excellent way to make a really premium feeling product that doesn't have all of those flat depth issues. I did a final finish pass with that router bit, and I actually used it. You can kind of see a little bit of a ridge there where it was changing the stepping, because this is an oval that was coming down here, was only stepping once every few thousandths going across, so you would hear it making odd noises. And I think you saw that when I was doing the video of it cutting along this bottom edge here. So you get a little bit of artifact like that, maybe something to consider. But that router bit, I actually did a cleanup pass, and it looks really good. Like I don't see any layer lines, so I'm pleased with that too. Okay, like, comment, and subscribe.